In May 2024, Alan and I went to an event in Sutton. So, Sutton is here in the province of Quebec in Canada. And the event was put together by a group of trail runners from that town. They had a loop that went up a steep ski hill and then back down on a less steep but slightly longer trail. They had set it up to start at 10 a.m. and go until 4 p.m. And the idea was that we ran as many loops as we could. I think each loop was about 7 kilometers. I don't remember
Yeah,
exactly.
six something kilometers. Yeah, but big hill.
Big, massive hill. And I don't remember the elevation, but basically, if you've ever gone skiing, downhill skiing, and you go on one of those black diamond hills, well, that's kind of what we were trying to go up. Since this run was on a Saturday, which is our usual long run day, I plan to do at least 3 loops because I wanted a long run distance. And ever since we've been doing this advanced marathon plan, my brain doesn't categorize anything less than half marathon as a long run. Um, and so I figured I needed at least 3 loops. Secretly, I kind of wanted 4, but because this loop was really hilly, basically, it was one big giant hill. By the time I got to the third loop, I was actually really happy to stop. Well, while reading the book that we'll be talking about today, I realized just how short a 6 hour event is in the world of ultra running. And some runners run many more 6 to 7 kilometer loops as part of the same event. Hi, and welcome to the Running Book Reviews podcast, where we review books written for runners, about runners, and by runners to help you decide if you'd like to read the book for yourself. We also hope that listening to us chat about running can help keep you motivated about your own running, or maybe inspire you to try something new. My name is Liz, and with my co-host Alan, we're going to talk with author Stephen Parker about his book, There Is No Finish, The Backyard Ultra Story.
This book is all about the backyard ultra, or the concept of the backyard ultra, how it started, who started it, and how it's grown over the years. There are 8 chapters in all. The book starts by introducing some key characters and ends with the author's personal experience of backyard ultra running. In between, there are many epic race stories which demonstrate the spirit and quirkiness and craziness of this quite unique event. So let me tell you a little bit about author Stephen Parker. Stephen has been running the streets and trails of Rochedale South in Australia for over 40 years. He adores his wife. I guess he must have written this. He adores his wife, Ruth, and 4 incredible daughters. I don't actually know his daughters, so I don't know how incredible they are, but I'm sure they are. And is the Associate Academic Dean for the Australian College of Ministries. That sounds like a book in itself. Since 1987, he has raced at least a half marathon every year. And since 2009, has been joining adventure type races. Rogaines, if you know what a rogaine is, it's like a massive long distance orienteering type event. Trail ultras, and now backyard ultras. In 2016, he helped to begin Underwood Park parkrun. We've just spoken about parkrun last week, where he continues to volunteer as the event director. So welcome to the podcast, Stephen.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for getting up early because you're talking to us from
Mm-hmm.
somewhere near Brisbane, Australia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's 7 a.m. here in Brisbane.
Oh, it's not too ungodly.
Yeah, that's not too
Sorry,
bad.
no pun
Yeah.
intended. Um, so first question we asked almost everyone, what prompted you to write this book about the backyard ultra?
Yeah, so basically it just came because I found I was spending so much of my time telling people about this amazing new series of races I've been doing, backyard ultras, and I'd write Facebook posts, I'd be telling people in person, and I was just entranced by the entire thing, and I was just talking about it constantly, and there were just so many amazing stories there, and I was just amazed that no one else had written any book about it at all.
Mm.
So one day I was actually in a conference. It was a thing called the Global Leadership Summit, and the author of Atomic Habits. What's his name?
Oh yeah, I know that book. I
James
can't.
Clear. He was giving a talk. I've got no idea what he said, but something he said somewhere or other just suddenly, because he's talking about, how to actually apply, how to, become more effective and efficient.
Hmm.
And one of the things he said just got me thinking about, I could write a book. I could write a book about backyard ultras. No one else has done it. I could do that. And then I tuned out of whatever it was he was saying, and I just started sketching notes during this session. And by the time we'd finished talking, I actually had a full outline for the book there, which is probably about 70% of what the final book was.
Wow.
That's
And then
amazing.
the conference then kept going for the rest of the day, and I'd just drift in and out of listening all day, making more notes, coming up with more plans, thinking about stuff. And yeah, actually, I'll tell you that the second half of the story as well.
Sure.
One of the things I realized was for this to work, I'd actually need to. There were two variables. One was, is someone else already doing it? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what if Christopher McDougall is already thinking, I'm going to write Born to Run
Yeah.
3 based on backyard ultras?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's gonna hurt your sales a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I thought that'd be a waste of time. And if the event found is a guy called Lazarus Lake, I would really need to have some interaction with him. And never had any contact with him.
Yeah.
I'd really need to get his permission,
Mm.
blessing to be able to do
Hmm.
Yeah.
this. So I thought, if I could reach out to him and find out one, whether he'd be keen for me to do it, and two, is someone else already doing it?
Mm.
Either of those issues could knock out this book project. And so, yeah, this is a long shot. It'll probably never happen, but yeah, maybe I should contact him. But I kept thinking, it is such a long shot. I don't know if I'll bother. Then, final session of this same Global Leadership Summit, a guy called Ryan wanted to get into the NBA, didn't quite make it athletically, but then started making documentaries about things. I thought, I'd like to make some documentaries about NBA teams, had no connections. So he sent a cold call email out to every NBA team. Then one of them replied and said, yeah, sure. Come and meet with us. And then one thing led to the other. And now he's consulting with all sorts of different NBA teams, having a great career doing all that. And he finishes the final two sentences of his talk, which are also the final two sentences of this entire conference,
Yeah.
was something along the lines of, what if I'd never sent that email? You've got to be prepared to fail. And when I heard that, it hit me like a ton of bricks and thought, okay, there's a massive
Yeah.
push towards writing this book. Yes, I will send that email. Yeah, the worst thing that happens is no, he never replies,
Mm.
or I'm told, yes, someone is writing the book, or no, I don't want you to write the book. Yep, that's okay. I can live with any of that, but
Hmm.
let's at least find out.
But you'd rather
By
find
the end
out
of the
before
day,
you start writing the book.
exactly.
Because
Yeah,
then if you start writing the book and you contact him for an interview and he's like, no, I don't want you to write this book, then
yeah.
yeah.
So you did all of those things.
Yeah. So within a couple of days, I'd managed to track down an email address, contacted him, and he was very gracious, very kind. I was able to interview him multiple times. He's been encouraging and supportive all the way through. So, and there was no other book out there. So,
That was good. So he could confirm, I guess he would confirm that for you because, I mean, if there was, then he would have told you that someone else had interviewed him, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
I,
So,
I don't know.
um,
I don't know what question to ask you now next because you've opened so many doors. And um,
I think
I
we should
was.
start with what is a backyard ultra,
That's
just in
probably
case
good.
there are
Yes.
people
Let's not
that
get
have
too
no idea
far
what that
away
is.
from the
Yeah.
starting point. Yeah.
Yeah, no, great idea. So backyard ultras are pretty weird. So it's a race or an event where everyone lines up at the starting line like any other race, but you're given a set course to do. Everyone does exactly the same course. It's 6.7 kilometers or 4.1 miles, and then everybody tries to complete that course, and you've got 1 hour to do it, and that's pretty easy. Almost anyone, even without training, could probably complete 6.7K in an hour. You can walk it at a really fast pace.
Mhm.
Well, if you walk at 6.7 kilometers an hour,
Yeah,
you
you
can
have to
walk it in
walk
that
really
time.
fast though.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
it's a
walk
pretty
that
fast
fast.
walk.
No.
And then everyone who finishes that lap is then given the opportunity to then walk a second lap. And so the second time people go out there, the people who haven't trained find that one a little bit harder because now you've gone above 13 kilometers, the distance gets a bit bigger, and then you do a third lap, and that, as the book title is, there is no finish. You just keep on going until something makes you stop, whether physically or mentally. So let's say you finish it in 40 minutes. That's a fairly easy run to do it in 40 minutes. That's quite a slow run. You've then got 20 minutes to rest. So you might sit back, relax, have some food, some drink, massage. You can have a nap if you want, chat to your friends. You've normally got a support crew around you, and you've got 40 minutes to recover. Or let's say it takes you 59 minutes. Then you cross the line. You're pretty much just going to stand there in the start finish corral, ready to go out. Because at the start of every hour, everyone lines up again. And if you're not there on the right, on the as the bell rings to go, you're disqualified. You get a did not finish if you don't go back out again. And so lap after lap after lap, people are racing to try and to get back in on time. The first couple laps easy as, but once you've hit 7 laps, you're officially in ultra marathon territory. And so by then your legs are tired, you're exhausted, you might be struggling to get back on time. And you're thinking, oh, can I sprint back in time? Can I get back in time to get there? And if you do, you can restart again. So it's lots of fun and a little bit different to the average run.
And each, I guess if you've got somebody who's a superstar at this, each lap you're lining up next to them because everybody starts again at zero on the hour. So
Yeah,
it's not like well, for example, we've sort of I've run marathons where I don't think I've run one with Kipchoge, but some people of that standard have been in the race, but I never see them because as soon as the gun goes, they're out of sight, and I never ever see them. But in backyard, you come around and you all stop, and you're all waiting for the next start. So the best and the worst are all starting from zero again.
yeah, that's right. So you actually can't build a lead. You can
Yeah.
sprint, you can do it in 20 minutes if you wanted to, but you just get a bigger rest and you still start at exactly the same time as anyone else. So having speed is still an asset in these races, but it can't give you can't build a lead in any way.
Okay, so and why is the lap 6.7 kilometers or 4.176 miles?
Yeah. So the number's a bit
Weird.
weird, but if you run 24 of these laps, it adds up to exactly 160 miles. Sorry, it
160.
adds up to exactly 100 miles. Sorry, which is about
Oh, 100.
161 kilometers.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so it's
so
and in 24 hours, so it's 100 miles per day. That's the idea.
yeah, so if you ran for 2 full days, it'd be exactly 200 miles. So it's quite convenient mathematically to be able to work out how far you've gone, particularly in miles. Um, if you run for 6 hours, oh yeah, that's going to be then that'll be 25 miles. So the maths
Oh,
is simple
yeah.
once you
Yeah.
start getting to the bigger numbers.
Yeah, I
Doesn't help
guess
to
when you
ask
get
people to
bigger
keep in
numbers.
kilometers. Yeah,
Yeah, not from lap to lap, then it gets a little confusing. But yeah, well, I guess when you have the benchmark of having, yeah, a quarter of a day or so like every 6 hours, you have
yeah,
25.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
25
most people will have a
miles.
spreadsheet where they've written down lap one, you've done 6.7 kilometers, lap two, you've done this many, lap three, so you can see all those numbers. But then once you get to the bigger numbers, it then becomes a bit clearer.
Do you take caffeine when you run? Lots of people do because it's in gels and stuff. And caffeine's legal and it's been proven to work. There's actual science that shows that it improves your endurance running performance.
And there's anecdotal data from when you have your coffee in the morning and you go for a workout versus when you forgot to have your coffee or you didn't have time and you went for a workout and it was terrible.
And the trouble with coffee is there's a lot of liquid just to get your caffeine dose.
Yeah, so then you have to stop for the bathroom mid-workout. Very impractical. Which is where Caffeine Bullet comes in.
What's caffeine bullet, Liz?
It's a caffeine supplement. It's wrapped up like in a candy. So, and it tastes like candy. And you can get 100 milligrams or 85 milligrams, which is about a cup of coffee, but without the liquid.
So we've tried the mint flavor and the chocolate orange flavor. They're both pretty yummy.
If you want to try them for yourself, we do have a 20% off discount code. So go to the link in the show notes and you can check out what Caffeine Bullet is and get your 20% discount.
Pretty generous.
It is pretty generous.
And we'll get a small benefit, so you're helping out the
Speaking of which, back to the podcast. Okay. Is it common for people to use spreadsheets? Because this was going to come up later, but uh, you talk about one runner that actually ends up being quite a good runner. Um, and he uses a spreadsheet to track everything. And he actually got so good at tracking things that he would find like a correlation between like what he ate and how much he slept and how he did in the runs. So is this pretty common? Like, do all the participants, are they all like big spreadsheet nerds? Because I love spreadsheets. So I don't know. I'm thinking like maybe this is my calling one day. I need to do these
Yeah, yeah.
backyard ultras.
Yeah, so earlier on, I'd suggest it was a bit new, but now it's becoming much more common that more and more people are doing that because people hear that, oh yeah, that was a great idea. So it's a relatively established technique now. You've got your spreadsheet and you write what's on there, because what you can then do is you can then work out what was there a correlation. You know, I started feeling bad at this point. Perhaps it
Okay.
was something that I ate, or did I run too fast then? Did I eat too much? Did I not drink enough? And you can sort of study how that all played out.
So these backyard ultras, they've existed for a lot longer than I thought. Because I remember hearing about the backyard ultra during the pandemic, like sort of after the pandemic, and you
mm,
do talk about that
Yeah,
period in your book.
yeah.
I think it was in 2020 or 2021 when people were r running like there was like this big satellite competition where people would connect virtually to a live stream and they'd be running on either a treadmill or in their neighborhood or whatever. And they would participate in this like giant backyard ultra, which was like a lap every hour on the hour, but they would just run where they're able to run. And I remember hearing about this and I thought it was a pandemic thing at the time. I had no idea that this was already like a big established event, but it's been around since 2011, which is like 10 years prior. So did the pandemic help at all to like spread the word about backyard ultras or
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I was in exactly the same shoes as you. I first found out about it during that. You mentioned the quarantine backyard ultra. There were
oh, that's it.
thousands of
Yes, the
people.
quarantine backyard ultra.
Yeah, there were thousands of people running around the world on treadmills or creating their own backyard courses, and it was all coming together on Zoom feeds and YouTube channels, and you could follow all these people wherever they were. I'd never even heard of the backyard before, or this race until it came down to the final two people who were running along. And suddenly, every running group I was involved in was sharing pictures and commentary of this. You've got to watch this, and so you start following along. But yeah, like I assumed it was just a one-off thing, and it took a while before I discovered that this was an established thing. It had been going around for a while, and that it was created by the same person who'd created the Barclay marathons because I'd watched the Netflix documentary for that, and yeah, it was only later I realized that this was quite a big thing.
so it was established by Lazarus Lake, formerly known as Gary Cantrell, who was who's the Barclay Marathon's coordinator. So he's also the initiator. It certainly looks like one of his types of events, I suppose. So maybe for our listeners, you can just explain who is Laz. All ultra runners know who Laz is, I think. And why does he write his foreword to your book with no punctuation?
You know what? I've got no idea why he doesn't use punctuation, but whenever he writes things, and he writes quite a lot on social media, provides commentary on most of his races. I mean, most backyards, he'll write some comments on the hour, every hour, and there's never any punctuation. So he's consistent, and consistency is a virtue.
He's quite a character.
Hmm.
He's quite a character indeed. So he was a runner himself from his teenage years, became an ultra runner fairly early on. then discovered that there weren't many, this is back in the 70s or so, there weren't many good ultra races near him. He was in Tennessee, still lives in Tennessee. And so he thought, oh, well, I might try organising my own. That way my friends and I get to go in a race. Started organising some races and then just kept on organising more and more races that got crazier and crazier, got longer, that and they've all got themes of uncertainty, of pushing people to their limits, of helping people to find new amounts of pain that they can endure. So,
It seems also that he likes to give people DNFs because it's a bit like the Barkley. And we did cover a book on the Barkley, so if
okay.
anybody's listened to that, then they'll know. But everybody basically DNFs, almost everybody. Sometimes all the participants DNF. But in the
Yeah.
Backyard Ultra, it's special because there's usually a winner, um, but just one. So everybody else gets a DNF. Do you have any idea like why there's only one? I don't know if you've asked this question, but why there's only one winner and not like a full podium of three? Because it seems like everybody else just gets DNFs.
Yeah, so I think the beauty of the backyard is that, at least in that race, that there can be only one winner, is that it pushes people to have to keep fighting to the end. So
Hmm.
there's no
Nobody's
so you can't
settling for
share
the
the glory.
bronze.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So it it forces people to say, hey, I'm there's no silver medal, there's no bronze medal, there's no honor in coming third. I have to keep pushing to see what I can do. Having said that, even though it wasn't planned initially, there is great honor in second, and that's really valued highly in backyard circles because they call the person who comes second the assist. So there's never any prize money. Heck, there's rarely prize money for first, but um, there's honor in coming second because the assist is really important because the race stops, and I don't think I mentioned this before. The race stops after the person who comes second stops. The winner has to do one more lap than whoever comes second. So let's say I run 12 laps, and then there's only two of us left. There's me and someone else, and I'm running with Alan, and I stop after the end of 12 laps. You then have to then do it that 13th lap, or there's no winner. If we both stop at the end of 12, then we both get DNFs. But it also means if I stop at 12 and you're still feeling strong, you still have to stop at the end of 13. You can't keep going. Or
So
let's
cruel.
say we both start lap 13 and then I stop 100 meters in and my cramps start hurting too much. All you have to do is finish that lap and then you've won because my score will be 12 and yours will be 13. But
Wow.
that's why there's honor in being the assist because whatever the winner does is only possible because of what whoever came second has done. So you really sometimes need to encourage people, hey, keep running with me. I really want to get a big score here. Please stay with me.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like also like the races that if somebody wants to go for a world record, it's not like road racing where you just pick a flat course and you go for it.
Yeah.
You actually need to have other good runners with you because otherwise, like you stop running after everybody else has DNF'd. So you can't achieve any big scores if nobody else can.
Yeah, that's right. So this year there'll be, say, 500 or so backyard ultra races around the world. But
Wow.
realistically, there's probably only half a dozen of those events where there's a realistic chance of getting a world record because you've got to make sure you're getting the cream of the crop all together. So next year I'll be doing a race called Dead Cow Gully. It's about 3.5 hours away from where I live. And one of the chapters tells the stories of one of the chapters tells the story of a race that was there before. And next year, about a dozen of the world's best runners are flying to Australia to go to that race, and Australia's best runners are going to come there as well. And so I'm thinking, of course, I want to be there at that so that I
Wow.
can. And because many of these people have been really quite helpful in writing the book as well. So I want to be there and say, oh, thank you very much, and have the honor of being at the start line lap after lap with these legends of the game.
just thinking about that, you've got a strange dynamic sort of building up there where you could win the race if you had no competition, but you are not going to get very far. So
Yes. Yeah.
there's a sort of aspect where, well, if I want to have a good performance, do lots of laps, I need at least one on the day, one really good other person who's maybe as good as me or better than me. And so you want people to keep going, but at the same time, if they keep going better than you, you lose. So you're
Yeah.
caught between a DNF
Yeah.
and kind of encouraging the best people to run with you and keep going.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
see that? Do you see it playing out like that in races? I mean,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
never been to
Definitely.
one of these. Is that how it plays out?
Yeah, so there's often some seriously messed up psychological dynamics happening. You get people trying to out psych each other. So you get to there's two people left at the end, and they're both saying to each other, "I'm feeling great. I'm feeling fantastic. I could go on forever." Because if you go,
And one of
"Oh,
them is hoping, like, oh no.
ah, yeah, yeah,"
You try
so
to hide that. Yeah.
yeah, because if you give across the vibe of, "Oh, I've only got another lap left in me," and the other person was thinking, "Oh, I'm about to quit." Oh,
Mm.
well, if they're going to quit, then I'll just do one more and try
Hmm.
and squeeze out a little bit more. So people are often pretending they're a lot better than they are. Yeah.
And so I know that you've tried a few of these already because you did write about your experience in the book.
Yeah.
What brings you back? Like what makes you want to just keep trying?
Yeah, you're almost guaranteed
Oh,
to get a DNF, aren't you?
Well,
yeah.
So
yeah,
That's
you're pretty
that's
much
right. That's right. There is a
Yeah.
DNF for me every time. Um, I think it's just the being able to push yourself more than in any other way. I can remember the first time I did an ultra marathon. It was just such an intoxicating idea of, wow, I don't know if I can run 100 kilometers. I feel like I'd never run more than a marathon before. Wow, the idea of discovering whether I can do this or not was incredible. And so there was something really exciting about that. And you get that in every single backyard ultra, not knowing what you're going to be able to do. The level of adventure is so much higher than for a normal race. Um, and that's one of the things that I've found that every single race I've done or have followed online, there's countless stories in there because no one stops for normal reasons. Rarely do people go, "Oh, yes, I ran 12 laps and then I stopped because I thought I would." It's, "Oh, no, this happened to my body," or "I did this wrong," or "I was talking to someone, I got distracted," or "I lost track of time." And there's so many fun stories that are in there. I just find it just so much more interesting than the average run.
what are the main reasons that people do stop? Is it fatigue or is it like I don't know, mental you know, in marathons, trying to run a fast marathon, I had my mantra at the end of the marathon when I was trying to run a quick marathon was your brain is messing with you. Actually, I didn't use the word messing. I used a more extreme word, but
Yeah,
your brain is messing with you. You can keep going. You could keep going to force myself for 5 minutes. I would imagine there's something like that in play, a mental aspect in play with backyards as well as a physical aspect. You just get weary. And then, of course, if you've been going for 1 day or 2 days, you can't sleep because, or
yeah.
can well, you can't sleep, but you can't sleep for very long because every hour you got to get up and run.
Yes, I think most people actually do stop because of mental issues, not physical issues. So once you've run, 7, 8, 9, 10 laps, all of your body is sore. Even the champions say this, that, once you've run, 50 kilometers or so, you're all hurting. Even if they end up running 600 kilometers,
Hmm.
you're still hurting after you've run 50 kilometers. You've still got a human body. That doesn't, the fact that you can keep going doesn't stop the fact that you are hurting. But they can manage the pain and they can say, "Oh, yeah, I know I can keep doing this." And I keep getting some rejuvenation every time I rest, food, nutrition, you can keep going. So most times it's something in your brain forces you to stop. And sometimes it's just, "This hurts too much. I don't want to push myself through this
Mm.
anymore. Maybe it's a lack of sleep. More often than not, I reckon it's a lack of hope. When you start thinking, oh, I can't beat that person, or I can't um, run far enough that I'll get a time. So let's say your best is 17 laps, and at 11 laps, you're in massive pain. You're only just getting back on time, and you might think, oh, I know I could do one more lap, but could I get to 18 so I get a new best ever?
Hmm.
Um, Probably not.
Yeah,
And
so
then,
it's mentally too crushing.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that
yes.
happens a lot in like marathons as well, because if at kilometer 25 you're already hurting, but you're hurting more than you think you should be. It's like a
Yep.
mismatch between like what you expected and what you're experiencing. And so you project almost always to the finish saying, well, there's no way I'm going to keep this up for the next
Hmm.
like whatever it is, 15 kilometers or whatever. So I guess that's a bit what's at play at these backyard ultras as well.
Yeah.
If you've already have experience doing them. Like what if you're a first timer? You have no idea what you're capable of. Are
Yeah.
you better able to be in the present at that moment? Like and just do one lap at a time?
So I actually think the backyard I enjoyed the most in terms of experiencing pleasure while I was doing it was my first one because it was just so exciting. And I can remember literally towards the end of the race thinking, why would anyone stop? I'm just having so much fun. This feels so good.
Could go
I could just
forever.
keep, yeah, yeah. And it was just exhilarating, that same thought. But I found in my subsequent races, what I actually forgot though was that first race, although I loved it, I was still in a lot of pain. And I was just remembering the exhilaration and the fun parts of it. And I forgot that, yes, after you've run 7 or 8 laps, all of your body is hurting. And so I did one in August this year. And quite early on, it was only after 4 laps, my legs started hurting quite a lot. I went, oh, this is disappointing. I was hoping to go quite a long way. Why am I hurting already? And I found that really quite disappointing because I just forgot that.
Yeah, you just forgot that that's what it felt like the first time
Yeah.
around because you were too busy being excited about it being your
Yep.
first time.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit like for marathons as well, because I have these fond memories of my very first marathon, and I remember certain things, and I don't remember being quite as destroyed, as like some of
Yeah.
my subsequent marathons. And I think it's
Yeah.
just because it was like everything was a first,
Yeah.
it was the first time I ran more than 30K because I'd only done 30K in training. And then every
Yep.
kilometer after that was like magic because it was like, wow, like I can go this far. And so I guess that's a little bit like doing laps of a backyard, as every lap is like a new experience that you've never done before. So you're just sort of amazed by your ability, instead of fearing, not getting to a certain number that that you had gotten to in the past, and now you have like a bar to measure your um I guess to measure your end result, whereas the first one you don't have that bar.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, that's good.
So the people who do well at these events, are they wired up differently? Because you were saying, it's often the mental aspect of it. So are they just mental giants, or are they just quietly organized, or
Yeah. So
what kind of?
there are a variety of approaches that people do take, but yeah, I think it's those people who've got strong mental tenacity, and often one habit I've seen with a number of them is a high level of optimism and encouragement.
Okay.
So I think you have to sort of see that the cup is half full, not half empty, and be able to think, oh yeah, I can do another lap, or I can do another 100 laps, or however much you're aiming for.
Hmm.
Um, and I think because you need other people to push you to go further, you'll often see people encouraging other runners as well. And so a lot of your better runners will be very encouraging to others. Harvey Lewis is probably particularly famous for that, for trying to get groups of people to run along with him, and his going, you can do it, keep on, keep going, keep running with me.
Hmm.
You can do this all day. And by encouraging other people, he actually gets also them pushing him along
Yeah.
with them. And there's also something about that in life in general. If you're helping someone else, if you're encouraging someone else, you get a kick out of it. And so the more encouraging you are for others, the more of a boost you personally get.
Yeah, it's a big
So
distraction from your own sufferings as
exactly,
well. Yeah.
yes. If you, well, I often find out from running with people in training, if someone else is going hard, finding it hard, I fall into the encourager mode, and then it's easy. I don't notice my own pain, and
Yeah.
it goes really quite
Yeah, you
well.
might be suffering, but not as much as this guy next to me.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I've got it
right.
easy.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you mentioned that you're going to do this Dead Cow Gully Backyard Ultra. This is a special race in Australia, it seems like. I think it assembles a lot of really good runners, probably from around the world as well at this point. But what's so special about this race?
Well, to be honest, it's really only special because the organizer did such a good job of recruiting people to come along. So Harvey Lewis at the time had I think when he was invited, he had the world record, or he used to have the world record. And so the organizer said, "Hey, we will pay for you to come. We'll provide accommodation for you. It'll cost you nothing to get here. Please come along." And he said, "Sure, I'd love to see Australia." And then once the world's best was there, then all the best of Australia went, "Oh, well, of course I'm gonna sign up, because this then becomes the best opportunity." So at the time, I think the Australian record was 59 laps or so, and Harvey Lewis had done 90 laps. And so, oh wow, this is a great opportunity for us to
Hmm.
increase our best up to something like that. So yeah,
That's
there
a
was
that's a
no,
bonkers
no,
amount of kilometers or miles.
it is, isn't it? They're
I just
crazy numbers.
I just got my calculator
I
out to try and
know,
work
I
out how
know.
Yeah.
far that is.
Well, we were talking about this yesterday, Alan, and 96 hours, that's 4 days. And
Yeah.
one day is 100 miles, so it's 400 miles. Like, unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's more than running Tour de Géant.
So I guess the idea is, well, if Harvey Lewis is coming, I will be able to run as far as I can possibly run because he's going to run further than I am, and hence there's no fear that I'll have to stop because I'll have no assist.
Yeah,
If you want
exactly.
to be
Exactly.
eternally optimistic about it, you could say he's the best assist I could possibly have for a run.
That's true.
The
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
is, he will probably kick your ass, but
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm hoping for next year. So to be honest, it's actually a daunting prospect for me to go next year, because I know that no matter how well I go, no matter how much I improve, I'm not going to make the top 20 in the race. So, yeah,
But it
it's
seems like there's
humbling.
this nice camaraderie that happens at these races where people that DNF, they end up crewing people that don't have crews, or helping crew some of the runners that are still running, or cheering or something. It seems like people kind of stick around unless they have flights to catch or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you've still got that really strong, positive, encouraging, supportive vibe. People want to be part of it. They want to help others on. Because as soon as if you've failed yourself, or not gone as far as you're hoping for, you sort of want to live vicariously through the other people. And wow, if you keep going, if you get the win, then that's almost as good as me doing it myself. So you get to be part of other people's stories and to help them. And it's just a really fun environment. I crewed some friends at a race earlier this year, and it was just lots of fun. And every time they'd come in, I'd be wishing I was out there running with them, and I guess turning that desire of mine into encouragement of, "Come on, you can do it. Go faster, go further. You can do it. No, 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 you're not going to stop. Get out there now and do it." Because I wish I was there doing it. So, you know, pushing them to do it instead.
What actually happens? I guess it's probably different in different cases, but what actually happens in that moment where somebody's really, really wants to stop and their support crew are really trying to keep them going? What
Yeah, so
describe it for
again,
us?
yeah, so what some people will do is they'll just say, "Sure, I'll start," cross the line, walk up 100 meters, and they go, "Ha ha, they can't keep me
Okay.
going now," and then they
Okay.
come back.
That's the way of getting them off
That's
their
how they,
back. Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so a lot of
Yeah.
people will quit mid-lap. Um, I can remember multiple times sort of being in our tent. You put a gazebo up around us and have all food and drink all around us, and nice. People will normally sitting on reclining chairs, so that they will have your feet up, so the blood can be evidently,
Mm.
recirculating a bit better. And I can remember multiple times thinking, no, I just don't want to do any more, and them convincing me, you can do it. And I'd stand up and stagger a bit. So they'd put arms around me and then walk me to the start line, and then literally push me off and you can do this. And once you're
And off
moving,
you go.
yeah,
I guess that's
yeah.
probably why people stop halfway around, because if they were to stop in the there's just too much encouragement if they were to stop in the exchange. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I just thought of I might share this
Sure.
story. This race I did last year was it was called the Clint Eastwood. And it was, I mentioned before that I'd started running and it was hurting after four laps. After about 8 laps, I thought I had almost nothing left. And I set myself the goal of getting to 16. And at that time, it felt like a massive stretch to get to 16. And my best at the time was 21. So I set myself the goal of hitting to 16 because 15 is 100 kilometers. And a
Okay.
lot of people in these races will stop. They'll get to 100
Yeah.
kilometers and go, I'm a champion. I'm
Yeah.
going to stop now. So I thought if I do one more than that, then I'll beat a big percentage of the
You beat all
races.
of those people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, I'm going to aim to get to 16. But when I hit 10, then the wheels started falling off, and I was only just getting back on time. I was feeling terrible. And I was feeling a bit lonely. The guy I normally run with these laps, he had a funeral that day, and so he couldn't run with me, even though
Oh,
he'd signed up for the race. And so I asked a friend, "Hey, would you mind if I run with you this lap?" And he said, "Sure." And then he stopped running after that lap. Like that was the end of his race. So I picked someone else, and then they started vomiting that lap, and that
oh
was their
no.
last lap. I
So
picked
you
the
you were
third
the
person.
you were the curse of the year.
Yeah.
Quite
Everyone you
seriously,
picked.
there
Yeah.
were 4 laps in a row where I knocked people out. On the fourth one though, it he didn't stop running then, but he does say that it was it was on that was the first lap that he felt bad because this was one of my friends who was really quite fast. So I increased my pace to him. He slowed down for me, but I needed someone to keep going. And then 4 or 5 laps he was gone, and he said it was that lap that really started hurting for him. But but this guy then said, I'm about to finish. And this is about lap 14 or so. And I thought, well, if he's about to finish, I'll just do one more than him. And he does one
Mm.
lap, and then another one, and then another one. Going, oh, please, won't you stop? Because I had about 8 friends there, and he was the last of all my friends. I thought, just need to
Okay.
do one more than him.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
And eventually he gets to 19. And I go, oh, thanks for nothing, buddy. You could have stopped, hours ago.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just finish 20. And so I'm running lap 20 and I'm exhausted. Like I wanted to stop hours earlier. I'd gone past the
Mm.
16 I was aiming for. I got to the halfway point. And so you've got 60 minutes to do these loops. I got to the
Mhm.
halfway point, and I think it was 31:30 was my time at halfway.
Oops.
But oh great. If I keep going at this pace, I'm going to finish on 19 as well. Because
Yes.
even if I finish lap 20, it's not going to count.
Yeah.
And what a
Hmm.
waste of time. I have to finish this lap. Finish with 20, nice round number.
So you have to
I
speed
can live
up.
with that. Yeah, yeah. So I I started running what felt like as fast as I could, crossed the finish line without 2 minutes to spare. So I sped up a fair bit, and I was pretty proud of myself. But I was utterly exhausted, and this is about 4 a.m. or so. Um, so I walk to the tent and I said to my support crew, "Yep, I'm finished. I'm really happy." And they're going, "Oh no, we're really proud of you. That's great, fantastic. You know, you did better than the rest of us." And then one of my daughters comes over. Two of my girls had come around. They'd been to their they'd been out the night before. They'd got there about 11 o'clock at night, and 4 a.m. They're still there, wide awake. It was so great having my daughters support me. And then one of them says, "Dad, I've got some bad news for you. We've been texting Mum, and her and Jessie, our younger sister, they're actually driving out,
To
and they're
see
going to
you.
be here to see you finish the next lap." And I must admit, I started sobbing
Oh
because
no.
I had no energy left. Physically, I felt completely destroyed. And I had no desire. I just didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to run a single more step. But my wife doesn't really do sport. She doesn't do early mornings either.
So this
And
is a
the
big
fact that
gesture
Oh, so
from
that
her.
was a big, yeah, it's a big effort.
exactly, it was a
Yeah.
really big effort. And I thought, oh, I can't waste their effort. And so, like, I'm literally still crying at this stage, going, "I don't want to do this. I can't do this." But I'm not going to let down my family. And so
Mhm.
they literally pushed me back to the finish line. Someone handed me an energy drink. It was this big, I think it must have been, it was more than 600 mils. It was probably like 800 mils or so. And I don't do energy drinks. But I grabbed it, opened it up, sculled it
Oh
in the
my
starting
gosh.
corral, and then
It's
thought,
probably
okay,
like 200 milligrams of caffeine.
yeah, yeah, and I don't drink coffee either,
Oh
so
no.
I don't really do much caffeine. I went, okay, my only chance this lap is if I just go as hard as I possibly can and put everything I've got into it. So the bell goes, and I literally sprinted off the start line. And after 100 meters, I looked around and went, "Hang on, I'm in first place here." And you know that adrenaline you feel when
Yeah.
you start doing well, and okay, well, I've got to keep this going. So I just kept on, relatively speaking, sprinting. So I was probably doing 6 minute kilometers
Yeah.
really,
Felt like
but
sprinting
Yeah.
oh
because,
yeah,
Felt
yeah,
like
you'd run for
Usain
so
Bolt.
long. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm just sprinting along. About a kilometer in, I heard a guy start to catch up to me, and he was behind me a bit. I go, "Okay, must stay ahead of him." And then I heard him talking, and I could hear him saying, "Must keep going. Okay, I have to go as fast as I possibly can, or I'm going to die." And I went, "Hang on, that's my story." "Hey, buddy, what are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, look, I only just finished the last lap by a minute, and my only chance of finishing this lap is if I just sprint the entire way." And, hey, that's what I'm doing as well. Let's do this together. So we're just pushing ourselves, running as fast as we can. After about 3K though, the other guy says, "Okay, I've got to walk for a bit," because almost always in these courses, you run for a while, walk for a while, run for a while, walk for a while, because you actually don't want to finish too early.
Okay.
You don't want to have too big of a break and let your legs recover. And also, it's actually good for your legs to be using different muscle systems. So if you're alternating between running and walking,
Mhm.
you're not just using your running muscles the entire time, and your running muscles can recover while you're walking. So it's quite helpful. So this guy said, "Look, I need to walk for a bit." But I said, "No, no. If I stop, I am never starting again. I have to finish this lap. Must see family." And I thought the only way I can actually finish this lap is if I finish first. So I just kept on sprinting. After a while, another guy who was one of the actual fast runners there started catching up to me. I went, "No, you are not going to pass me, because if as soon as you pass me, I'm sure you've had this feeling in
Yeah.
marathons,
Somebody's going to
when someone passes you,
snip your strings and you'll collapse.
yes,
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly how it feels to me. Like there's an elastic band or something that they snip and you lose it all.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm not going to let that happen. So I just sprinted up again and got a decent lead. Um, Kept going, finally get to the final straight with about 200 meters to go. Then suddenly it occurs to me, and I look at my watch, it's about 38 minutes. I'm going, what? I did 58 minutes for the previous one, only just getting in on
Doing a
time.
PR for your lap.
Yikes.
Yeah, so I'd done most laps in about 50. I'd slow down to about 58. I'm coming in at 38 minutes, and suddenly it occurs to me, nobody is going to see me cross the line because nobody expects me to come in that early.
Yeah.
My
Oh
support crew are probably going to
no.
be asleep
Yeah.
right now. My wife and daughter are probably still in the car driving.
Probably
But
haven't arrived yet. You'll have
yeah,
to go
yeah.
around
And
again.
so I'm thinking, I'm going to be a hero crossing here, and nobody is going to finish. So I start coming down the final finish chute, and I start calling out as loud as I can. And this is at what 20 to 5 in the morning. Parker goals, Parker goals. You know, I'm finishing. Nobody is there. I cross
Oh
the finish line.
no.
Not a single person. Man, I feel like a hero, but not. And then Mark, my best mate, the one who I normally run with, he'd come to crew me by then. The funeral was over. He walks around the corner and he said, "Oh, so you finished?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah," and feeling quite proud of myself. And he goes, "Oh, oh well, but you still did well anyhow. Congrats on doing 19. That's pretty cool." I went, "No, no, 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 no. I finished the lap." And because he assumed that I'd just gone out for a
Because
couple
Oh
you'd
of
come back
minutes
so
no.
early.
and given
Yeah.
Yeah.
up, because that's the only way I
Yeah.
could have come back so early. No,
Yeah.
no, no. I finished first. Like I smashed. No way. And so then I come back to the gazebo and my daughters aren't there and they're asleep in my car. So I
Oh
texted them to
shoot.
say,
I'm
I'm
back.
back already. And they said, "Oh, oh, well done, thanks." And they come back in to comfort me. It's okay, Dad. You did well. No comforting me. I want encouragement. I want, hey,
Oops.
that was awesome, Dad. Because again, they just assumed that I'd finished early.
I'm
Yeah.
still in the race until that bell rings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, sorry, Mum's still not here. I went, oh,
Oh
okay,
God.
I have to do another lap now.
So
But also,
did you end up
Did you do
doing
another
another
lap?
lap?
well, yeah, yeah, because if you can finish in, I think it was 39 minutes, I finished in the end. I thought,
Okay.
obviously,
You've
it
got more
was
in you.
my body was telling me to stop and my brain was telling me to stop, but it turns out I could override them both
Mm-hmm.
just because the motivation of my girls coming. I thought, well, stuff it. Obviously, I can keep running. And so then I just I ended up doing another 4 laps after that and got to the magic 24 full day
Oh
100
Brilliant.
wow.
miles.
100 miles.
And
Wow.
to be honest, I actually think I could have kept going, but because I'd sort of been teasing everyone with me finishing for so long, it actually felt indulgent that I was keeping them there.
Yeah.
And by then my family, my wife had been there for 3 hours and she's going, why don't you stop now? And, yeah, okay. How about I get to 24? And so
Ah,
it was
that's
actually a
so
weird
funny.
dynamic. If she wouldn't have come, I would have stopped at 20.
Yeah.
But if she wasn't there at the end, I probably would have kept going. So yeah, it's really weird the dynamics, the power of the mind that
Yeah.
I was sure I was finished, but
Yeah.
Hmm.
it suddenly you get this new source of motivation. I can run forever now.
Yeah, in the book you actually mentioned that this can happen a few times, like where people think that they're gonna be finished after this next lap and
Yeah.
then somehow they get themselves out of it.
Yeah, I actually think that's one of the most important principles in it that you're when you're experiencing these races that you're going to keep on having some issue that'll come along. So I might feel nausea for a few hours, or my legs might be particularly sore, or one of my glutes might start hurting, or you can't keep food down. People get a variety of things. But normally what happens is each of these issues lasts 3 or 4 hours. They're almost never half an hour issues. They're things that last for long enough that you think these are debilitating. I will never get over them. But then
Hmm.
suddenly, after 5 or 6 hours, you go, hang on, that problem that I was moaning about constantly is gone. Of course, it's been
It's been
replaced by a new
superseded.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And there's a new one. But if you can remember this, you can then go, whatever problem I'm going through right now, yeah, it feels terrible. It feels like I can't get
Yeah.
through it. But if I can just keep going for a few more hours,
This too
I'll
shall
get past.
pass.
This too shall pass. And I
Ah.
found that so encouraging. And so then I'd try and explain that to other people as they're about to finish. I go, no, 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 keep going. Remember that problem you had before? that you went past that, you've kept going. This one now, you can do it. You can get past this one as well. One of my daughters just came back from a European traveling holiday with one of her friends, who'd come along to the book launch and isn't a runner at all, but she read the book because she likes me, and so she read
Hmm.
the book, family friend. And my daughter was saying that this friend of hers kept on citing my book regularly through their travels, because when something difficult would happen, they'd go, you know what? This is just like that book of your dad's. There's something difficult has happened, but we just sort of kept on persisting, and then that problem just went, and now things are so much better than before. And just by continually pushing through the problems, it's been so much better. And I was so pleased when I heard that. I thought, cool, for a
Hmm.
complete non-runner to get something really quite positive out of a running book. I was stoked.
How do the ladies go in these events? Because it seems to me like from an endurance point of view, they're tough cookies. And we see as the races get longer, the women get more equal to the guys. But it looks like you have to be some sort of strange mental, I'm just going to run as fast as I can, otherwise I'm going to die. That sounds like a very male sort of Monty Python type mentality you have to bring to it. So there's some pros and some cons, I think, for the ladies in terms of why on earth would I want to do this? And then if I do it, I'm going to be extremely good, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah. So ladies have had a fair bit of success. I think 2 years in a row, the World Championships were won, and there aren't multiple categories, so they beat all the guys. Maggie Gutel, Courtney Dauwalter. I think they won it in successive years, and won it quite well. And so there's the first race I run that I raced, I actually managed to be the assist, and it was a female, Nicole Jukes, who beat me in that. And I've got four daughters myself, so I was actually really
Hmm.
quite happy to have a
Mhm.
female winner. So there are quite a few female winners, but males are currently dominating. So
And what's the
um,
proportion in terms of just participation? Like on the start line, when everything starts, is it like kind of like a road race where it's 50-50 male, female? Or would you say that like it's up until now been more male participants?
yeah, I'd guess it's something like 55-45 male to female. So
Okay,
it's
not
not
too
it's not
bad.
a
Oh, okay. So they're
Yeah,
they're participating. They're just
yeah,
I mean, I guess there's only one winner, so the like 50-50 chance it's male or female, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think in Australia, I think the last couple of years has been a female winner most years, but it's still a minority though, with a dozen or so races.
You just made reference to the World Championship. We haven't actually talked much about it, but the unofficial World Championship seems to be a race which Lazarus holds in his on his home turf called Big's Backyard. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. The race is literally in his backyard. So he's got a property in
Okay.
rural Tennessee. And so it is his backyard. And he's got for many years, he had a dog that he rescued. That originally he'd just call it the dog, and then he'd call it the big dog. And now when he began the race, because the runners would be running on the dog's backyard, they began calling it Big's backyard, or Big Dog's
Big's Backyard.
backyard. And so all the races are now called Backyard Ultras after his backyard, and the World Championships is called Big's Backyard Ultra World Championships, and often it's just colloquially referred to as Bigs,
So how
named
do you
after the
how do you
dog.
get into the World Championships?
So it used to be you just apply because no one had heard of the race, and so anyone that applied could
The
get
good
in
old
there.
days, I guess.
Yeah. And then they went through a series of having golden ticket races where there
Okay.
was about half a dozen of them around the world, and anyone who won them could then get a ticket to come along. And then after the pandemic began, they began a series of satellite races around the world, and these are actually really quite exciting. So now there's two sets of world championships each year. There's the satellite races one year, and then there's the one in Tennessee in the other one. So the satellite races, you probably I'll explain this to get to the main answer. In the satellite races, you have a 15-person race in as many countries as want them around the world. So in Australia, we'll have 15 people. There'll be 15 people in New Zealand, 15 in US, and in all sorts of other places. And so they first did this in the year 2000, during the pandemic. It was after the worst of the pandemic, so people could start gathering for races. But international travel was massively affected, and they
Yeah.
found that most people who wanted to fly to the States couldn't do it. So they thought, well, if they can't fly to us, let's create this international network of races. So the best 15 from every country has their own national championships. So Australia has their race. They have a winner declared there. Congratulations, yay, you're the best in Australia. But so I think it was it 27 or so countries did that the first year in 2020.
2020.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But each of these races are happening simultaneously. So it started at
Oh,
7 a.m. in Tennessee, but that was 11 p.m. in Australia, in Melbourne at the time. So, and I think that actually gave us a bit of a disadvantage
yeah, because you're going
because,
straight into the night.
Hmm.
yep, you've
Yeah.
been awake all day and you're tired when you're starting. So people are trying to nap during the day as much as possible. Um, well, the other people didn't hit the night time until they'd been running for a full day. So there's all these races happening simultaneously. And so there was three levels of competition. There was one, who wins each race. So say there was 27 national championship champions declared, but then you add up how many laps each of those 15 people do. So let's say every Australian runner did 10 laps. 10 times 15 would be 150. So our score would be 150. So you add up however many laps you do. So like maybe one person does 5, someone does 10, someone gets 50, someone gets 70. You add up all of those numbers, and that gives you your team score. You then compare that to all the other races, and then there'll be one national winner, as in one country that beats all the other
Okay.
countries. And so the dynamics becomes really quite different in that race because, yes, you want to be your national champion, you want to beat the other 14 runners from your country, but you also want to beat the other countries. So
Hmm.
for the first half of the race, you're saying to everyone else, keep going, everyone, let's keep going, let's keep going, keep going, until there's only two of you left. Once there's two of you left, you're the person who you've been trying to encourage suddenly becomes your competitor and you want them to stop because you want to become the national champion. So
Yeah.
keep going,
Except for you.
and stop now.
Yeah.
Um, and then whoever wins those races, the winner of each of those national champions, also gets invited to the next year's individual national championships. And that's the
Okay.
safest way
So that's the
of getting an
golden
invitation.
ticket. Yeah.
Yes, that becomes the new golden ticket to there. And then there's also and in that satellite race, there's also one other level, and that's which country will have the person who goes the furthest. So
Okay.
Australia their winner might be 50 laps. France's might be 60 laps. The USA's might be 70 laps. Cool. USA wins because they went furthest. That doesn't mean their team went furthest, so because it really depends on what the people lower down their list went. So in the first year, Belgium, I think Belgium won, but I think USA won the teams. No, the second year, sorry, Belgium went the furthest, but the USA
Hmm.
team won because collectively they went further.
Because they
So,
had
but
more
back,
depth, I guess. Like their runners, there had more runners that
So
were
it's a little like cross-country
good.
teams, isn't it?
yeah,
You get the
yeah,
Yeah.
very
people
much
who
so.
are way down the order, who only
They still
maybe run
count.
10 laps. If they could make that 10 laps into 12 laps, that could make all the difference to their team.
Which is a really fun dynamic.
Yeah.
It's lots of fun.
And because they're all going simultaneously, you've got a leaderboard where you can see how the
Yeah,
Australians are traveling, or they've got three people left. And we were
yeah.
reading this with some excitement in your book, I think. You can sort of go, okay, the Australians have still got three guys going, and they've been going for 48 laps. And there's two Japanese people who are still in, and they're going at 48 laps as well. If one of them drops out, they're finished because that's the end once you've only got one runner. The Australians have got three, so maybe they're going to go deep. Oh, hang on, the USA have still got five, and you can see the kind of the race dynamic across the world on your screen.
Yeah, yeah. So this year that they've just had the third running of this, the 2024 Satellite Championships, and it began 1 week after the book was launched, and I did it deliberately so that the book
Hmm.
could hopefully surf the
Yeah.
wave of excitement for the
Yeah.
race, and it was fascinating stuff. So the USA team who'd won the previous year, they finished a bit earlier than hoped for, but they were about 10 laps ahead of the Australian team. So Belgium was in front by a fair way, and then the USA was in second, and Australia was in third. But
Oh,
then,
wow.
a lady, Meg won the USA team. So the female winner of the USA national championships this year, and but they were about, I think it was 9 or 10 laps ahead of Australia at the time. And Australia had two runners running for a fair while at that point. Everyone else had dropped out. And so suddenly the news came to Australia, the Americans have dropped out. All you have to do is do another, I think it was 9 or 10 laps, or I can't
Oh,
remember the exact
all.
number now, but
Yeah.
there was a certain number. But one of the guys was already well into his PB. Had already pushed himself further, already just feeling destroyed. But once you're given that hope,
I hope.
hey, you
Yeah.
get to this specific number, then you can stop. Then we're in second place. You've beaten the Americans. Who doesn't want to beat the Americans? Um, and it played out perfectly. They just kept running, kept
Wow.
going, got to the exact number they needed to do, and then stopped. So it was really exciting. Everyone's watching it
Yeah.
online, going, "Come on!" And this is all on YouTube as well. So every lap, thousands of Australians were logging in just to watch. Okay, will they come in on
Yeah.
time? Will
Did they
they
make it?
leave?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's boring to watch while they're out running. So it's all about the last
The
10 minutes. Will
little,
they come back in? And then
yeah,
seeing them run out. And it's really quite amusing to watch them run out. Imagine someone who's run for 80, 90 hours, then the bell rings. They do not run off like the runners you'll see at the start of a marathon. They're hobbling off, and you can see all their injuries, you can see
Yeah.
all their pain.
oh boy.
Um, but but you marvel at their endurance. So it's fascinating stuff.
How come I hear about the US and I figure the US will be good at this stuff. They got population, etc. How come the Belgians are so good? Because there seems to be, strength in depth and multiple years in a row. Um, the
Yeah,
Belgians
so I'm
have
I'm
the
I'm
Belgians
I'm
have a
pretty
whole
sure it's the
bunch of runners.
waffles.
It's
Yeah.
something or the
Ah,
beer.
Yeah,
It's
somewhere between the
no,
waffles
no,
and
the
the beer.
waffles. It's got to be the waffles because beers,
it's
I
the
mean, beer.
chocolate. That's what it is.
Yeah, so I
Waffles
do
have
know
a lot of
part.
carbs. So maybe it's
I know
that.
part of it is that for years they've had a fairly tight-knit running community, particularly ultra running community, between sort of the north of Belgium and the south of the
Yeah,
Netherlands. There's lots
yeah.
of people train together. A lot of their best runners actually run together every week. They all turn up to the same ultra races regularly, and so they've been
Okay.
building relationships for a fair while. And so they've sort of got this core of excellent runners, and it feeds off each other. When you have really high standards, new people come into the group and go, "Oh, okay, cool." So it's normal to run for 4 days in these things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
Like it's
yeah,
not,
there's
it's elitist. Yeah, so they had an atmosphere of accepted elitism. You're
yeah,
expected to do well if you. With these world championships, they're all happening simultaneously at different times, which disadvantages some people. You say the Australians having to start in the night, but also they're running on different courses. So they're running the same distance, but they might be running like a flat road, or they might be running a trail, or some hills, or it might be raining, it might be muddy. Um,
yeah.
so is there are some countries, favored by easier courses?
Yeah, quite definitely. So, the last two times, I think the Americans have stopped earlier than I would have thought, based on the quality of their runners. And I think that's at least in part because I think they've probably got one of the hardest courses. Because when Laz first invented the race, he wasn't trying to make the easiest course he could. He was wanted it to be fun and interesting, have some texture in the race. And if you're going to
hmm
run something regularly, you'd rather not be dead flat. So there's There's leaves all over the course. There's tree roots everywhere. There's rocks you got to jump over. There's twists, turns, it goes up and down. There's one place in his course, and I found this amazing when I first saw a picture of it. There was literally a tree with branches on it that the course goes through the tree itself. And so
Oh,
you actually have to
yeah.
climb through that tree. And you probably could hurdle it if you had really fresh legs, but
Mm,
no, you almost always literally sort of either step through it or climb through it every single time. That slows you down.
you
And
bet.
can you imagine doing that after you've been running for 200 kilometers? I'd cramp on it every
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So
I would be stuck. I would be stuck in front of it, just saying, okay, I have to stop.
and so countries have started to learn that. And so most countries are now saying, let's get the flattest course we can so we can
Mm,
make it as easy for us as possible. And so that's the trend. The Belgian course is definitely one of the flatter ones. Australia's this year was quite flat deliberately. But yeah, there's quite a mixture, and weather is always a variable. This year, the Irish Championships had to be it was rained out or more blown away because a cyclone came in to
Oh,
near their
wow.
course, and the wind was so much that the course owner had to say, "I'm sorry, you're not allowed to be here anymore." And they'll go, "No, we'll keep running." No, no,
mm,
this is dangerous. You must
yeah,
leave. And there's been fires. There's been other cyclones before.
yeah.
Um, been all sorts
Well,
of
there have been wars as
Mm.
well. I mean, Ukraine were in for a while, weren't they?
yeah, yeah. So that there's literally been missiles flying over courses before. The military have come into the Ukrainian course to say, "I'm sorry, you have to stop running now." No, no, but we've got permission to be here, and so to turn off all
Yeah.
their
Your
lights
lights
and
are
and
on
Oh,
and
and
you're a
wow.
bombing target. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I find it quite sobering to think of people running under such oppressive
Mm,
situations,
I'll bet.
but with massive admiration. So I was actually messaging for the books, people involved with the course, and the Ukrainian gentleman who won it, Nazari Hanat. He won the 2022 event, um, but then couldn't go to the World Championships in 2023, even though he'd won,
Mm,
because, well, there's a ban on Ukrainian men leaving the country
yeah.
because of the war. And then I was messaging him about that, and I wrote that in the book. And he said, "Oh, well, actually, I couldn't have come either anyhow because by then I'd signed up for the military. Hey, here's a picture of me while he's texting me, and he's got this full military uniform
Yeah.
on, and is actually in a trench.
Texting you
Thought,
from
oh,
an active combat zone.
Yeah.
yeah, just incredible
Yeah.
stuff.
Kind of brings it home to you. And
Hmm.
Yeah. But to me, that's part of the fun of these races as
yeah.
well, that it connects you with a much bigger world than just my
Hmm.
own little small parkrun community at home.
Yeah, and to some extent, I think, you see the sporting world and you see it's become, all money. One of the things that Laz says is he's very interested in feats of athletics rather than
Mm.
feats of I don't know, finance
Yeah,
or
yeah,
those kind of things. And it's kind of nice to see an event like the backyards, which are still pure in terms of, people are doing it for the love of sport or some
yeah.
weird mental reason. I'm not sure. It does seem though that it's only been really going as a sort of world championship for sort of three cycles, sort of 2020, 2022,
Yeah,
2024, and hence
yeah, yeah,
it's relatively young in its evolution. If you compare it to, I don't know, running the mile or something like that. And so does that mean there's a lot of scope? It's hard to tell from where you are, I guess, but does that mean there's a lot of scope for the world record or achievements or what we think as the limit of human endurance in running in these events? There's a lot of scope for that to improve even further.
yeah. No, that's a good question, and what we obviously don't know. So the world record has improved quite a lot over the years. At one stage, the world record I think was 49, and it actually stayed at that for 3 years. Now running 49 hours won't give you a place in the world championships. If
Yeah.
you run 49 laps, you wouldn't that wouldn't be enough to get you to the starting line. So last year, the world record hit 102 at Dead Cow Gully, then to 108 at the World Championships in Tennessee. And then this year in the Satellite Championships, it got to 110. So yes, it got beaten, but only by 2 hours.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so there's a bit of a suspicion that 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 maybe it's starting to plateau. But there's also some people out there saying, you know what? I'm actually going to blow this out of the park and I'm going to get to 150 sometime soon. The problem with that is though, you need two people to get to 150 and
Yeah.
you probably need three or four to get to maybe 130 or 40
Hmm.
because two people find it hard just running by themselves. So if you get the two best people in the world, they're not going to get the best and say that you had a race just with those two in it, I would predict they wouldn't go very far. You need a
Yeah.
broader community to get you
Yeah.
along.
Yeah,
So the
because on
last
any
two,
one day you don't know, like it seems like
yep,
you'll have a winner one year, but they don't always win the next year. And that's usually because like I mean it's so far that you don't know if it all kinds of things can derail you. Like,
yeah,
if you haven't been sleeping well or you start hallucinating or you haven't eaten well or you were nursing an injury going in
yeah,
or something like that. And um, yeah, so I guess you need kind of a pool of people that can run
Yeah.
really, really well
It
to be able to
it
get
wouldn't
to that.
surprise me if the world record goes up, but it only goes up one lap at a time, but it just keeps going up one lap at a time.
yeah.
Because once you've broken the world record, what is it that mentally focuses you on keeping going? You gotta be some kind of different being if you think, well, I'm gonna keep going for another 20 laps.
And frankly, it's more exciting if it keeps going up like that.
Yeah.
There's that sleep component, like it seems like there were a lot of stories of just runners that would get start to get confused mid-lap. And the thing is they can't have help mid-lap. So if they're just there like hallucinating and they don't believe that they're in a race anymore or anything, then, there's nothing really preventing them from not making it around and then just being disqualified. So it seems like that seems to be one of the limiting factors.
Yeah, yeah, very, very much so. One of the fun things that I've done as part of the research for the book was I've watched a lot of the online videos. So a lot of these races have got, if it's a 100-hour race, it's 100 hours of video that are there. Um, and so where the
Wow.
photographers have run around following it all. So I've gone through and watched quite a lot of these races to try and get the real story. And often the cameras will come into people in their gazebos after they've run 90 laps or so, and you can actually hear them talking. And at times they're incoherent. You can hear the fact that they don't know what's happening and why am I here? What's actually happening? Why you want me to run out there and then come back again? But why would I do that? I've got this tracker on my leg. Why am I taking this tracker for a walk? Like, why is this happening? And sometimes the cameras go out to people when they to find someone who's stopped halfway because there can be a bit of fear that something bad has happened to someone,
Hmm.
so that the camera goes out with them, and you hear them talking, and they're incoherent. It just
Oh, wow.
what, and you can't recognize people's names, and it can be a bit sad at times watching this pain. But yeah, it's a real thing that the effect of sleep deprivation on people. So that some of the better runners, though, have got a strategy of running as fast as they can, well, relatively speaking,
Yeah.
during the night and aiming for 38, 39, 40 minutes, and then get back and then try and sleep for about 15 minutes. And so many of them will tell their support crew to wake them up when there's 2 minutes to go until they have to restart. Quickly wake up,
Wow.
put food in, have some drink, cool, backpack, or whatever they're going to take for the next lap, and let's go. And they literally train themselves to be able to sleep. It takes me about an hour to get to sleep most nights, so
Yeah.
I find that really hard.
I guess you're
I've
not
never
one of
been.
those people.
No, no.
Um, so like because you've done so many interviews and you just mentioned all the footage you've watched, are there any strategies that you kind of ended up implementing in your own backyard running?
Oh, Yeah, well, I'm sure I've stolen all sorts of things. Definitely the spreadsheet, planning what I'm going to do each lap. I try and offer really clear instructions to my support crew as to what to do. The nutrition, I've learned a fair bit from them. Um, I haven't tried the sleeping or the doing faster laps to increase my rest because I'm not particularly fast myself, and so that's not a tool
Mhm.
I feel that I can access myself. I've definitely found that whole "this too shall pass" that sort of philosophy really quite helpful. I've picked that up a bit. As much as possible, I try and steal the ideas from the best and implement them to the best that I can.
Hmm.
Well, we wish you all the best with your next event when you get it when you get into it. I'm not sure Liz is going to start doing this anytime soon with any
Oh, give it a go.
she's not
I
into the running through the night, and she's not
I
into the
don't, yeah.
possible hallucinations.
Yeah, I'm not into the hallucinations, but you know what? Like, I'm not opposed to,
You are into the repetitive nature of things, aren't you?
yeah, so I
Yeah.
do like that. And I'm not opposed to like starting and maybe running through the day portion and then going to bed when it's like dark out after and
Yeah, yeah.
stopping to try it out. I just don't know. I don't really know if we have any events that are like close to home because I don't think I would travel any far distances and spend a lot of money on like
We could do the running book reviews backyard ultra
we could
from
just
starting
create
You
from
never
one.
your
know.
house.
Yeah, yeah.
Invite our
Let me find
friends.
out for you. I'll find an event close for you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
There will
if you
be
know
one.
of
There'll be
one,
one
yeah.
in Canada for sure. The Canadians are quite good at this.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that
no, there's some
there's
great Canadians.
definitely
Yeah.
there's definitely some in Canada, but is there like driving distance?
Yes,
From
yeah, yeah.
Montreal, like can I just drive there in the morning, not take a hotel, run some laps, and call it quits when the sun goes down and
No, you have
run
to
back
just do
home?
one more lap. You can't call it
Yeah.
quits.
Yeah, so for one of the races I did, we had to fly for a few hours away, and that was a lot harder because we sort of had to get all our supplies that you need for the race locally, borrow
Oh
some from the
yeah.
organizer,
That was in
go to the shops
Cairns.
there. Yeah, yeah, up in Cairns.
Yeah.
But the first one I did was literally 25 minutes from my house, and that was fantastic. Just so much better being in driving distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you can you mentioned it in your book, but also like you can have a support crew that's a rotating support crew. I think you had that in your first one where it wasn't the same
Yeah.
person that was your support crew for the whole time you were running. You actually had shifts.
Yeah. So I think the norm with backyard ultras is you've just got one or two people as support crew and they're there the entire time. I'm probably a bit different. I've always just tried to get as many people as possible and say, hey, can you come along for a few hours here and there? Um, and then and then I find a lot of people actually just come along and visit for the day as well and cheer on
Mm.
because it's actually a really fun environment. And
Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
one of the things I really quite like about the event race. That look, if you do a 100K race, you start, you finish. Anyone that wants to support you has to drive through some really crazy road,
Yeah.
get the
Cool.
timing right to see you for 2 minutes in a
Yeah.
transition center. Here, they can guarantee to see you for 10 minutes every hour. They know where you're going to be,
Hmm.
the road that'll take you there. And it's really quite a supportive environment, and the support crew can hang out together. And so you get a really nice community feel happening there. And that's one of the things I really like about these races, that both between the runners and the support crew, it's just there's a really fun vibe. Yeah, I really like it a lot.
Kind of giving us the small taste, I think,
Yeah.
of maybe trying to get
Yeah.
into it.
But our friend Cheyenne, so we have a friend that we run with, and he moved to Toronto, so he doesn't always run with our club, but he's a teacher, so in the summer he's back home at his parents, and they live in Montreal. So
Yep.
he this summer he decided, I think he was inspired by a runner on Instagram. He did 24 hours where every hour he ran exactly a mile, and it was always from his house. So it was 1 mile every hour for 24 hours. And he was just inviting people, like anybody that wanted to do 1 mile with him. They would just show up on the hour because he would always be leaving on the hour. In between, he would just sit outside. This was in the summer, so it was like nice and it was
Yeah.
sunny. So he
Yeah.
had like protein bars for everyone. And
Oh,
so
how fun.
Yeah, so I
Sounds
went.
like a gateway drug to backyard ultras.
It does. It does. It was actually a lot of fun because I went and I think I did 3 miles with him or something. So I was
Yeah,
there for
good.
like 3 hours and
Yep.
yeah, in between we were like eating protein bars and chatting and yeah, it was fun.
Yep. Okay, so you enjoyed that, right?
I
If you
did,
do a
yeah.
backyard ultra, and for the same amount of time, you'd go 4 times as far. Wouldn't you rather have clocked up 12 miles than
Yeah.
4 miles?
Your Strava would
Yeah.
look great, Liz.
That's true. My
Yeah, yeah,
Strava
that's
would look
right. Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. And what's really cool about the backyard is it can be your gateway to ultra runs overall. And
Yeah.
you might, for many people who've only run a marathon, just do 7 laps and bang, you've done your first ultra ever.
Mm.
And to me that was really quite exciting to go, oh, I can increase my PB of the furthest I've ever gone before. And so
Hmm.
wherever, whatever you've done
Yeah.
before, this is a nice, safe way of being able to go further than you've ever gone.
Yeah,
And I
because
think,
you're insured a break every hour, so
yeah,
it's actually, I guess it's kind of nice. And
yep,
you know what to expect after you've done the lap once, then it's always the
yeah.
same one.
And my wife always worries in trail ultras that I'm going to die out in the bush somewhere.
Oh
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
and in this, she goes, "Oh, cool. I don't care. Do these ones as often as you
Yeah.
want because you know it's very safe."
We only have 6 kilometers to cover to find you if we need to go out and look for you.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. At least my corpse won't be there for long before it's found.
One thing I think our listeners will hear here is your passion for the subject, and what I would say to them is, it shows in the book. So,
Oh, good.
when you read the book, you could see that you're absolutely tripping over yourself to talk about this thing. You're probably one of those really, if you're not a runner, we are, so you're safe. You're safe. You're in a safe space with us, Stephen. But you're probably one of these people who, if you have non-running friends, they hate you. They because I'm thinking of doing this backyard, and they go, oh God, he's going to talk about it again. This will be the 400th time he's explained it to us. Um, but we love it. And what I would say to our listeners is it shows in your book writing and your stories and the passion you have for it. From that point of view, if people want to get a copy of your book, do you want to direct them anywhere in terms of where they should go to get a copy, or just your
Yeah,
usual outlets?
Amazon's the safest place.
Okay.
In Canada, oh, I've forgotten the name of it.
What?
What's the there's a
Indigo?
Indigo. It's in
It's
25 of the stores in Indigo.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
And I've got a
okay.
website, runningforever.au,
Okay.
runningforever.au, and that's got links to all sorts of stuff on there.
Okay, brilliant.
And the audio book's actually just come out in the last week as well. So
Okay. And
Oh, that's wonderful.
you narrating in an Aussie accent?
for better or for worse, it does.
Ah,
So to be
excellent.
honest, I'm a little bit scared about the audio book,
No,
but yeah,
everybody loves the Aussie accent.
nice. I hope so.
It's great
As long
stuff.
as it's understandable. So
And
Hmm.
if people want to follow you or connect with you or find out more about what you're up to or just follow your exploits, how could they do
yeah,
that?
so on social media, on Facebook, it's the book title "There Is No Finish: The Backyard Ultra," and on Instagram, just the Backyard Ultra story. You're both there, and there's links to all those from runningforever.au.
Okay,
Perfect.
brilliant.
Yeah,
And we can link some of that in our show notes when the episode comes out.
yeah. Oh, and also, if you don't mind me asking, I don't know if every author will say the same thing, but
Yeah.
if you do read the book, if you, I'd really appreciate it if you could put a review on Goodreads and Amazon, because they're the sort of algorithms that help people to find the
Oh,
books. And
okay.
um,
It's like
the
podcasts.
yeah, yeah, exactly. The more people that write
Yeah.
reviews, yeah, and put a podcast and put a review on this podcast as well. So review the book, and seriously, even if you just write, it was fine, that
Yeah.
still tells the internet algorithms just as
Hmm.
much as a big,
Hmm.
long,
Yeah.
huge essay.
Long wall of text. Yeah. Don't feel you have to write War and Peace. Uh,
Yeah. A few of my reviewers have written these really long things. I
yeah.
go, oh, wow, that's really cool. But
Mm.
it was good will also work.
Yeah.
I think that's sometimes the barrier because like I'm on Goodreads and for a while I was keeping track of all the books I was reading on Goodreads
Oh,
and I've
yeah.
been a little lazy in the last like few months, so there's a lot of books that aren't there. But yeah, at first I had this big plan. I wanted to like do all the review everyone and everything. And I think I get my own way, because he starts to become this beast. You're like, "Oh no, but I don't know what to write." And yeah.
Yeah,
So I guess you're right. You just have to just write something and
yeah,
give it
yeah.
some stars and
How many stars should
it'll
we
be
give it,
fine.
Liz? How many stars?
I mean, I guess it should be five for
Five.
the algorithm to be good, right?
Five would be great, but seriously, any rating is good. So yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
it all
The
helps.
thing that we ask is that if it's a like lower than four, then you should explain why, because
Yeah,
otherwise it just makes
yeah.
you feel like crap.
Liz is determined. Liz is determined to get a one-star review for our podcast at some stage in the process. She's
No, no, I just
on a
leave
mission.
the door open and I request that people tell us why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we do now at the end, Stephen, is we just give a quick 1 2 minute synopsis in terms of how we found the book.
Yeah, great. Yep.
Me first.
Okay.
So, There Is No Finish, the Backyard Ultra story by Stephen Parker. The concept and format of the Backyard Ultra is quite a recent one. It's the whole history basically of Backyard Ultras takes place in this book. And I mean, I would say most of the international action takes place over the last 5 years. So it's quite a modern story, really. As usual, there's some great stories told by Stephen, but also there are also a whole series of seemingly impossible achievements. As we heard, the world record was 49. Now that doesn't even get you 50% of the way to the world record. That's ridiculous. That's like saying, the sprint 100 meter sprint was 15 seconds, and now it's 7.5 seconds. Something like that. So it's a bonkers story from that point of view. Stephen also gives his personal experience as a participant, as well as documenting, as we've heard, all the major events. So you actually get to hear verbatim some of the stuff that goes down during the events. One of the most fascinating aspects for me is the social interaction. You kind of have to beat everybody, but you can't keep going without them. So you need them, but you want to beat them. So you want them to stop, but you kind of don't. And there's a seesaw sort of mentality around it, which is fun. Also, we haven't mentioned the cover photo, but the cover photo is a sort of black and white photo of, if I recognize him, it's Harvey Lewis, I think, running through a finishing area. Harvey Lewis being one of the US performers in Backyard Ultras. Overall, a very fun read.
Yeah, I guess I will just add that I learned a lot from this book. I had no idea that backyards have been around for so long, and there are valuable lessons from backyard ultra runners on how to manage sleep and nutrition in longer events that I don't know if they got that from the ultra world or if the ultra world has started using them from the backyard ultra gang, but yeah, there's a lot of good little tidbits of information that you could use if you wanted to try one of these events or if you're an ultra runner.
A good
You
reference.
don't, yeah, you don't actually need to have done a backyard or even an ultra to enjoy the book though, because there is also just a lot of great stories. So I'm just echoing a bit what Alan said. There's incredible camaraderie that's found at these races and great shows of sportsmanship. We didn't even touch on some of the ways that some of the backyards ended. So I'll let you guys read that in the book, but there's some really good stories in there, and you don't have to be an ultra runner, and you don't have to have ever done a backyard to enjoy those. This book is just great if you like stories, and I guess I'd recommend it if ever you were curious about running your own backyard ultra. You should definitely pick this up.
Liz is getting curious.
I'm a little bit curious. I mean, if there was one at driving distance, after having read this book, I think I would go like, take a peek, see what it's all about. Um, Hang out for a bit.
So with that, Stephen, we just want to thank you for spending your, I guess, your morning, our evening, but your morning from sunny Brisbane. And we look forward to following your exploits and seeing more about backyards.
Excuse me. Oh, it's been lots of fun being here. Thank you very much. I'm happy to talk about running all day, every day. So I am very
Absolutely.
envious of you guys. It's a great podcast you got happening here. So thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
Thank you. And thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Running Book Reviews. A big thank you to Stephen for spending his time with us today. And if you'd like to leave us some feedback about how we can improve the podcast or want to suggest a book that you'd like us to review in a future episode, please leave us a comment on social media. We are Running Book Reviews on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter we are reviews_running. Please also follow us on social media to find out about new episodes when they're released, or you can just subscribe to the podcast on your favorite streaming platform. If you've been listening to us for a while and you're wondering how you can help out, there are a few ways. If you're enjoying the podcast, spread the word. Tell your friends about us or share a link to your favorite episode with a running partner. Leave us a review on Apple Podcast. Oh, we haven't had many written reviews recently, so get to it, guys. You can also rate us on Spotify out of 5 stars. We're also on a platform called Buy Me a Coffee. Just go to buymeacoffee.com and look for a creator called Running Book Reviews. That's us. And you can see all sorts of extras there free of charge. There's also an option to buy us a coffee if you want to, but don't feel an obligation. Go and look at the stuff. That's all today from Running Book Reviews. Bye for now.